Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I'm Daniel.
I'm Chris.
I'm Dan.
And we're three lonely nerds just trying to make our way in the universe. And
but at least we have rum to
we have rum and cokes, and we saw The Rise of Skywalker tonight. And so there are a couple of things we got to get out of the way first. First is that if you have not seen the movie and you don't want it spoiled, go away.
We are going to spoil the fuck out of this movie.
We're going to spoil it. There will be everything we can remember that is important. We're going to talk about it. You're going to find out who Luke's father is and all the other shit if you're not caught up on that yet. So kindly pause the video and come back and then watch it, or mute it and let the video run so we get all the minutes on it, because that would be really great. That's our first disclaimer. I'm just going to say it one more time. Spoiler warning. You have been duly warned. The other thing. So Chris and I kind of grappled on how we were going to deal with this. So I'm going to deal with it, and then you're going to be okay with it.
Can I do this, please?
Sure. I'm going to say what I have to say, though.
Okay. We were wrong.
Yeah.
The Jedi Paxis leaks were actually pretty much completely correct.
Every single thing.
Yes,
not every single thing, but it was
most of the major points that were in those leaks were true.
Way more of them to be right to be just coincidence.
Yes, there was absolutely someone on the inside at Lucas who spilled all of this. The only reason that any of them were wrong was probably because maybe, but the only reason anything was wrong was because they were spoiled while the movie was still in production.
Mm-hmm.
So there were things happening that the person didn't know at the time that went into the final product.
Yeah.
So consider this us eating shit for being wrong and for saying those couldn't possibly be true. But, we did it. We're wrong.
Yeah. The one thing that I'm fairly convinced that wasn't wrong was the fact that we had a healthy amount of skepticism to a rumor that had no proof or any corroborating evidence and on paper looked like absolute horse shit.
Yes.
And you know what? If we're wrong for doing that, then I would rather be wrong my entire life.
I would have been, for the record, I would have been skeptical of any leaks, and I think we were right to be skeptical of any leaks because there was no corroboration, there was no reason to believe any of this. It just happened to be right this time.
Yeah.
But I don't think believing any sort of leaks is a very smart thing to do.
Yeah, I would do this. We talked about this on the car ride home. I would and will approach similar situations in the exact same way, where I attack the merit of the idea and its sources. If you're the kind of person that expects an apology for that, unless you are the person leaking the movie, you don't get an apology because you didn't leak it. In fact, I remember in our video I was very careful about giving credit to Jedi Paxis and saying, I don't think that you were a dishonest actor. I think someone approached you with this information and you ran with it. And that's fine. It turns out that whoever approached you knew the entire thing. Yeah. And I have a couple of tinfoil hat theories.
It was JJ.
I don't know how all of it leaked.
It was either JJ or Colin Trevorrow.
Kathleen Kennedy.
That would be
She's
good.
She's like, fuck you guys. This will be the last. This will be the last time we ever talk about the leaks.
Thank merciful God.
So here's what the leaks.
Oh my God! I'm so fucking angry. They made Rey a Palpatine.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Yeah. Why did they do that?
Okay, so So again, spoilers.
They were warned.
Yeah. So if we're gonna talk about Rey's parentage, this has been a thing that's been thrown around since we found out about Rey. Before we even saw Force Awakens, we knew that there was a character called Rey, and she was going to be related to Obi-Wan. She was going to be related to Palpatine, and she was somehow going to be Mace Windu's daughter, and which wouldn't really work. But all of these possibilities, and all of them were stupid because the cool thing about Star Wars was that they used that card already, right? In Empire Strikes Back, that was the first time in modern history that something like that had happened, and it blew everyone's mind. And you get that once, you get that once, and then you do it again, and it's kind of cheap, right? That's what it kind of came off to me as. So let's go through this real quick. We'll establish a timeline, and then we're gonna go a little bit into things we weren't crazy about and some ideas.
And things we were crazy about, because Dan here really liked.
Yeah, and there were some things I liked too. Like there's a John Williams cameo.
Yeah.
The composer of the film is a bartender in this film, and we were talking about this earlier. I don't know how we've gotten through 9 films with him composing the music for them, and he's never had a cameo. And I guarantee you it's because he's such a gracious and subtle man that he probably said no when they asked him. And he's like, I'm not an actor. That's not what I do. So we were talking in our last review about how they blew through all of the trailer footage in like 30 seconds of the movie. It opens with Kylo finding... Well, first of all, you find out that, and this is one of my big problems with the movie, is that between the movies, something big happened that we should have seen.
Like, Palpatine sends this message to the entire galaxy saying, yo, bitches, I'm still alive. You're all dead.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, and which understandably puts the Resistance into a little bit of panic mode. Particularly Leia, who was like, bitch, we fought that fight, and we thought he was dead. And Kylo becomes obsessed with finding him, and he finds him. And Palpatine pretty much says, I have this fleet that I've been kind of collecting. Surprise, I'm not dead. And it's yours to have, and we're going to go take over the galaxy.
But you have to kill Rey.
Yeah, you have to kill Rey. And Kylo's like,
okay, I was going to do that anyway.
I'm balls deep in the emo thing right now, so that's really fine.
Deal.
So he goes on his hunt for Rey. And Rey, meanwhile, is having visions, right? And she feels compelled, and I'm kind of yada-yadaing it right now, but it's the general idea is that she feels compelled to find this thing that would help her find Palpatine, which turns out to be the fucking Wayfinders in those fucking leaks. So
we're not talking about this.
Yeah, I know.
Finn, Poe, and Chewie are on this mission. Meanwhile, they find out there's a mole inside the First Order who's feeding them information. But that's not really important.
Yeah. Well, when you knew Palpatine was going to be a significant presence from the opening.
You knew it from like D23,
it was Star Wars Celebration.
Oh yeah, because they had the very first trailer for the movie. It ends with Palpatine laughing, and then the actor for Palpatine comes on stage, grabs the microphone, says in his Palpatine voice, "Roll it again."
Yeah, just to nail the point home, they have him walk out and say something. Since we're talking about Palpatine, the one thing I do really appreciate is that when he was in his like gross form. He looked like pre-fucked up Palpatine a little bit, where he looked like he did in Episode 2 and the first part of Episode 3, where it looked more like that actor's face than all the prosthetics and stuff. Though he's wearing a ton of
before he got lightning scarred.
Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, he apparently doesn't know how to deal with that whole concept. Right?
He has not learned.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was actually kind of funny. So they find out that Luke was trying to find these Wayfinders before, and he and Lando go to this planet called Pisana to find it, but the trail goes cold. But they are able. So Chewie and Rey and
Finn and Poe and C-3PO and BB-8
go to Pisana to try to find it, and they're able to find it. Right. Well, not the Wayfinder, but they were able to find the person that. They were able to find the clue to the next thing, the Indiana Jones thing. Right?
They also found Lando Calrissian, and Billy D. Williams didn't give the most inspired performance in this movie.
Is that so? When I said funning it in, is that who you thought I was?
Yeah.
That's not who I was talking about.
Okay.
Well, let's go ahead and spoil something right now. Okay. Han Solo shows up.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first, was there CG? Was there a thing happening with his face?
I don't think so.
I thought there was, and
I mean, this was the part of the movie where I was busy face palming really hard, so I don't know.
Now, I
might have missed it.
Yeah,
but
the one thing that was different from the leaks was in the leaks he was a Force ghost.
Yes,
which was fucking stupid because Han Solo is not Force sensitive.
I understand how the misconception was made, however.
Yeah, if you're only reading it on paper.
And because every other time we've seen a dead person come back in Star Wars, they're a Force ghost.
Yeah.
But no, this was just Kylo's memory talking to him somehow.
And if you thought that Harrison Ford was calling it in for Force Awakens,
this dude was done with Star Wars like 30 years ago.
Yeah, they wanted to he wanted them to kill him in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, there can't be any more Han Solo action figures if you kill Han Solo.
So we need Han Solo alive.
So yeah, and we'll get to that point. So they get the next clue to the next thing. Meanwhile, right before they do, there's a showdown between Rey and Kylo. He tracks them there, and
that's the part in the desert in the trailers where she cuts off the part of his tie.
yeah, she does like the Force flip.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is a great scene, by the way.
Yeah.
Like that. We need to stress that however much we talk about, like so much of this plot was stupid, the action was all really good and really well done.
Yeah, it's honestly the story is my only problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Chewbacca is captured by the Knights of Ren, who are now a thing again.
Yes. Well, they're a thing because they were never a thing before. They were
Yeah.
just kind of this like paper tiger.
Yeah. So they put him on a transport, and then Rey and Kylo Ren have a Force tug of war
over it. And Rey accidentally shoots lightning at it
Yeah.
and blows it up.
Yeah, and so she is ridden with guilt that she has killed Chewbacca.
By the way, that was the first moment that I really had the premonitions of, oh my god, they're going to do it the Palpatine thing. Like, I kind of thought that as soon as they mentioned Wayfinder,
Yeah.
because that was in the leaks, but it wasn't until I saw her shoot the lightning out that I was just like, oh my god, this is terrible,
Yeah.
everything is bad.
What don't you like about it from a story perspective?
Well, it makes the galaxy feel so small.
Yeah. We loved,
Because-
like, both of us
Well,
loved
I mean-
the idea of her not being related to
Yes,
anyone.
because that means that anybody can be a hero. It means that you don't have to be related to this clique of like 4 or 5 families that all the relevant things in Star Wars are happening when there's supposed to be thousands of worlds and trillions of beings.
people, and
Yes.
like only Skywalkers or Palpatines are like the
Yeah.
ones that it just.
Like this whole war that has killed millions of people all happened because 2 families
have a problem.
It's Capulets
Yeah.
and Montagues all over again,
feel like-
except
I
with
feel-
Well,
bigger
this
stakes.
one was more like that than the others even.
Yeah.
Steve Harvey should come on set and just have a cameo.
Yeah.
The Palpatines and the Skywalkers.
Yeah. You thought Palpatine would kill himself fast. Like you're done. So they the next clue is another moon of Endor.
Yes.
In the old Death Star wreckage, which we saw from the trailers. So they go there, they crash the Falcon because the landing gear isn't working or something. And Rey sneaks off because she finds a Sith dagger, and at the right moment when it was convenient for the story, is able to find this thing that comes out, and she holds it up to the Death Star.
By the way, that's the biggest ass pull in the movie. Like, how does this ancient dagger just happen to line up precisely with that? Like,
Well, an argument could be made that Palpatine.
Force prophecy, yeah.
Well,
but-
no, that he
Or
because
forged.
the Sith dagger predates the Death Star. I think that it probably influenced Palpatine's design of the Death Star.
Really?
He was probably like to Jen Erso's dad. It was probably
It's
like,
gonna crash in this very specific way so that the wreckage matches up with the lines on the dagger.
Well, the part that matched up with it was a whole piece.
Was it?
Yeah, it was like mostly.
I thought
like-
that was part that was like sheared off.
No, I don't. Maybe it was. I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah, no, I think it lined up with the structure of the
that's-
exterior of the Death Star, but
Okay.
but
Yeah, that's
but
how I
it's-
kind
but
of
it still
interpreted
pointed to a very specific spot
Yeah.
that you would only see
Which-
because of the wreckage.
By the way, if you knew that there was something on the Death Star that belonged to the Emperor,
Right.
where would you look?
The throne room.
Because I would look in the throne room. Because it's like, this is the first place I would look. It doesn't matter. So she goes out by herself, freaks everyone out because the waves are really bad, and finds the Wayfinder and is like, yes, found the Wayfinder. And Kylo shows up and immediately takes it.
Wait. She gets attacked by Dark Ray.
It's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Dark Ray shows up.
So she has her like Dagobah cave moment where she sees Dark
Again,
her and
her second Dagobah
yes,
cave moment. Yeah.
and they like fight a little bit, and her dark side persona says, "Don't be afraid of who you are," and then does this creepy like
Yeah.
sharp teeth
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
thing.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. An important thing to point out before this is that we find out a pretty important piece of information, which is that in The Last Jedi, they could see each other. In The Rise of Skywalker, they're able to physically
Interact.
manipulate each other.
Not only that, interact with each other's environments. Yeah. Because there's this really cool fight scene where Rey is sneaking on board Kylo's ship and Kylo's on the planet below. And like they have this lightsaber duel and like they're breaking things in each other's location and like
it's spilling into the other.
Debris is spilling into the other place and that's how Kylo finds out where she is. Because that's the scene in the trailer where they break the pedestal and then he sees the black. Right. They're like, oh, you're in my room.
Yeah. Well, and get out of my room. Don't look in the porn. Don't look in the porn drawer.
Don't read my diary.
He got to that ship real fast. Shouldn't even leave the room, man. He was there.
So we have to think of a good word for this because they're not both in the. Kylo isn't on the Death Star with her, but it's like this forced Skype.
Right.
Imagine Skyping and being able to smack someone.
Yeah.
You're
I mean, that is my dream, to invent a technology that allows you to punch people in the face over the internet.
Yeah, that would be... Oh, man.
Call it Force VPN.
Yeah.
Like, you know those extendo arms with the boxing gloves on them?
Yeah.
All computers should come with that, so that when someone is really, really mad at you, they can just press a button and punch you in the face.
Are you going to apologize for the...
Bong!
Yep. So she's in the throne room, which is where we all knew it was anyway. Mm-hmm. And he shows up in his Skype or whatever, and they have like a little lightsaber fight, and he's able to grab a hold of the Wayfinder. Now, up to this point, Kylo's big plan is at first he's clearly in love with her, right? Which I've predicted since the beginning of the trilogy. And his idea is that he's going to turn her to the dark side, and they're going to beat Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
I hesitate to call it love because that implies some sort of like give and take romantic relationship, whereas Kylo seems to feel possessive of her.
Yeah.
Like in a very
like an abusive
creepy,
kind of way,
manipulative, stalker, abusive way.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, he's trying to fuse his perspective through her, to make it all make sense. His story.
Yeah, because I'm sure for like I have no trouble accepting this movie as part of Star Wars. It is what it is. Like we said this earlier, Star Wars doesn't belong to any one of us. Mm-hmm. So Rise of Skywalker is the Star Wars story, right? And so if I'm accepting that, which I do, I can imagine that Kylo must have been torn in several different directions, just because he had the expectation that he had to kill his family from Snoke. He has feelings for someone, and he was robbed at an age. He was stolen by Snoke at an age where you're dealing with that development when you're attracted to someone or when you were supposed to have meaningful relationships, and he doesn't know how to handle. Like, he doesn't deal with it, and he has this extremely strong connection to a power that he's way too young to understand.
Absolutely.
Even with training, right? So he's like juggling all of these issues, and he's not that old. He's young, and he's trying to figure it all out, right?
Well, he's a broken individual.
Yeah.
I mean, you see that just from his lightsaber.
Yeah.
It's like that's the mirror of himself.
He's mentally and emotionally not as old as he is physically.
That's true.
Because of his stunted development and all the trauma he's gone through.
And also...
he's been manipulated his whole life.
Yeah, it hurts me to say this a little bit, but probably also a little bit Luke's fault.
Yeah,
because Luke was the first person to set the expectation on him that he's like, you're a Skywalker, motherfucker, here's a lightsaber, right? And he's like, well, what if I want to be a pilot like my dad? And Luke's like, shut up.
Luke regrets that.
Yeah, right. Speaking of Luke, one of the things that I loved, and you know the part of you that loves cheesecake, but you shouldn't eat it. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know what I'm about to say?
I think I do.
Yeah. So the part of this movie where I loved, but it made me feel a little sick because I ate too much. You find out that that Leia was training as a Jedi with Luke, and that when she found out she was pregnant, she ended her Jedi training. And there is a scene, a very brief scene, the night that she tells Luke that she's stopping her Jedi training, and she and Luke are sparring with lightsabers, and she kind of kicks Luke's ass. Mm-hmm. And they're wearing helmets, and they take the helmets off, and it's an aged down, Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, and it was convincing enough because the lighting was kind of dark and everything. It was convincing, where I was like, give me more of this, please. Like, I want so much more of this.
Disney spin-off series.
Yes, please. Yeah.
The scene I thought you were going to talk about is like Rey has stolen Kylo Ren's TIE fighter. She's crashed on the Jedi island
With the TIE fighter, or with the X-wing.
The TIE fighter.
Yeah.
It's Kylo
Kylo
TIE
Ren's
fighter that
fighter.
she crashed.
Well, yeah, I know, but you mean the
fight.
scene with the X-wing, though, right?
No.
Okay.
Before that, and she's like throwing things at the burning TIE fighter, and she pulls out the lightsaber and she throws it, and then Luke's ghost hand comes out and grabs it. He says, "A Jedi's weapon deserves respect."
Yeah. Okay.
Which motherfucker, you threw that same lightsaber over your shoulder as soon as it was given back to you.
Yeah, I think that
a good
was
point.
that was JJ being like, "We're sorry. Okay.
We're sorry we disrespected this lightsaber.
We're sorry we had Luke throw the lightsaber.
We're
We all
sorry we
stopped."
were a little funny and flippant."
Yeah.
Although at the same time, I loved that he like whoosh, you see his arm, then he walks, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. That's the thing that I appreciate about how they developed Luke a little bit. So in the EU, older Jedi Master Luke was dead serious.
Right.
He had the weight of everything that happened to him. He was more or less responsible for the death of his own father. And I mean, despite, albeit saving him,
Sure.
was never a humorous person.
Not only that, he's carrying the weight of the entire galaxy on his shoulders.
Yeah. I feel like EU Luke was a perfect version of Luke that was never harmed by anything. Luke, as they have developed him in the current canon, is a little bit more like Dagobah Yoda before they figure out he's Yoda, where he's a little goofy and he's kind of funny, and I love it. I really do. Did you the CG on that, or I don't like the Force Ghost effects they had in the movie.
I didn't like Luke's.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. And did he look weird to you?
It was something with his hair.
Yeah, his hair was like very wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so back on the Death Star. So
they
well, we were talking about Kylo's plan. So he's like, okay, the way I get this plan where I get Rey is I make her come to me, and he destroys the Wayfinder, and he's got the only other one in existence. There are two of them, by the way.
Then he fucks out of the Death Star. Rey chases him. They have that fight against the wreckage in the water that was in all the trailers. I really liked this fight because as it developed, you could see Rey wearing down, and Kylo
he'd been conditioned. He'd been born into it.
Yeah, he was still full of energy. He was just casually parrying and knocking her down, and eventually she just gets knocked down to the ground. She can't get up anymore.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like Kylo Ren, like Ben Solo had been trained by Luke in the flesh, where he taught him how to fight.
I took that in a different way, actually. So there's a lot of scenes in this movie that suggest that Rey is being seduced by the dark side. Like she's getting angrier and talking about destroying Palpatine, and like Finn picks up on this really early. He's like, "Hey, Rey, you need to calm down a little bit."
And she's like, "You're not my real dad. Stop."
Yeah,
which is more or less what she said.
So in that fight on the wreckage, I view that as like Rey trying to tap into the dark side and not fighting, and not really getting it because she hasn't been trained in that. Whereas Kylo Ren has been doing the dark side for half his life at this point, so he's able to just keep channeling it, and he has unlimited energy.
Yeah, I always read that as just him having a proper lightsaber training.
Could be that too.
So they do it's a cool visceral fight that has like a lot of weight and a lot of energy in it.
I think you hit on a good point. I hadn't thought about that before, Chris. But yeah, you're right. As I'm reviewing the scene in my head, I see him just every strike is just full on.
Well, he's so ferocious.
It is meant to wear Rey down. And that's the entire point. I want to break your will.
Yeah. Oh, that's so stalkery and weird when you think about it, because it really is kind of like how that whole relationship is working.
Well, I don't think
we just saying his entire.
Well,
he is stalkery and weird.
And to be clear, I did not. I don't mean to paint the picture that he's trying to possess her in a certain way. I think he wants a partnership with her, but again, I think it's more self-fulfilling than really possessing another, possessing her. I think it's a way for him to complete his own story, which he doesn't have an end.
I buy that.
Yeah, because if you're the hero of the story, the hero always gets the girl at the end, right?
Right around here, the weirdest shit starts to happen.
Really? Do you think this was weird? Because I thought it was. This was actually one of the story beats that I really, really liked.
Are we about to talk about Leia?
I think we are, yeah.
Oh, okay, because I was really confused by this. So, so while this fight is happening, all of a sudden, Leia's having like problems, right? Where she seems really exhausted. She somehow knows what's happening. We are told by Maz Kanata what's happening, which is also weird. And I understand that like they could only do so much with the dialogue from Carrie Fisher. And I expected her. They used her more than I thought they were going to use her.
Yep.
And every scene she was in, it made sense. Like it was convincing to me that she was, that it was a part of the story. It didn't feel at all like they were writing the dialogue around what they already had, right? So
like they had to do that, but the way they did it was really convincing.
that was fine.
That's interesting. I actually had probably if I were to pick a few things, that would be one of the things I had a problem with.
Oh, really?
Because the longer the movie went on, the more screen time she got, the more awkward it felt for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it did. It felt increasingly fake, and when they were using her in the present tense in the movie, it made sense, obviously. But like as a viewer of this movie, knowing Carrie Fisher. It felt a little awkward.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's going to be really tricky because we know that Carrie Fisher died,
right?
And so it doesn't matter how they do it; it's going to break the immersion, right?
Right.
So anyway, during this fight, Leia's having some troubles. I think she senses that either Ben's about to die, or
so here's my interpretation of what was happening. We know Leia is very sensitive to, like, at the very least, her family, because like. When Han died in Force Awakens, she sensed it right away. Yeah. When Luke was there, like she knew something was going on with Luke in Last Jedi.
Well, just to get a little nerdy, she knew because he touched her, and she didn't feel anything, and they confirmed that in the novel. Okay. Like when he kisses her, she's like,
"Yeah,
what?"
So what I think was happening is that Leia. We know from context earlier that Leia had been training Rey. Because Rey calls her Master.
Yeah.
And we know Leia obviously has the close familial connection with Kylo Ren. So I'm guessing through those bonds with the two of them, she felt them fighting and just kind of knew that, hey, I have to do something here because Rey is kind of wearing down. So she recognizes that the only thing she can do is what Luke did and what killed Luke. So she goes to lay down, focuses all of her energy, calls out and just says, hey, Ben.
And that's all she could do.
Yeah, that's all she could do because she hadn't trained as a Jedi her whole life.
And she also wasn't Luke.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that people love to ignore in The Last Jedi was that the thing that he did was so amazing and so like awe-inspiring. And I actually like the way that I like that interpretation because it first of all it kind of validates Luke's power as the Jedi Master, but it also means a little bit more that she knew she was just going to try her best.
Yep.
And that was all she could do. So
so she calls out and it's just enough to make Kylo Ren like turn around and drop his lightsaber.
Right. Yeah.
And then Rey, of course, just grabs it and stabs him.
Enough to wake up Ben Solo.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
So I had I think that that the pacing of this part was kind of weird for me. The way that I interpreted it was that Rey didn't have time to realize that he would I think she maybe thought he made a mistake or something, and she just went with it.
I think that's exactly what happened, yeah. And it was only after the fact that she sensed Leia dying that she understood what had happened.
Yeah.
And that's why she cried, and that's why she healed him afterwards.
Yeah. She stabs him straight in the chest.
Yeah.
Just
gut.
Right. Just right through the midsection. And I will say that if this movie hadn't been ruined for me, that would be one of the spots where I was like,
oh God.
Whew. Yeah. Oh no. And so you might remember we were doing our live show the other day. We were talking about, we're going to spoil just a little bit of The Mandalorian for you, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. I thought they introduced this new thing in The Mandalorian. Then it was like they changed the release schedule for Mandalorian to happen before Rise of Skywalker. And I had assumed it was because that character using Force Heal was going to show up in the movie, which it does. And she figures out, and this is something she uses earlier in the film too, but it's more important here. She's able to kind of undo her mistake. And she heals him, and then Leia dies. And I'm not sure, the way it's shot, it looks like, to me it looked like the act of her stabbing Kylo killed Leia. Which I thought was the way that it was cut. and maybe it wasn't like that, but like in the moment when I watched it, I was like, so like were they like joined together somehow, and then Rey stabbing Kylo like somehow. I think if we go with your interpretation, she just probably ran out of juice.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, my interpretation is just, like, the effort of sending her message killed her. I kind of like yours because it plays cyclically with the part earlier where she thought she killed Chewbacca.
Yeah. That's the theme I thought they were playing on. Which is more or less what she, like, at the end of this fight, she's like, I'm too dangerous.
Yep. So she steals Kylo's tie. She goes off to Jedi
Which, by the
Island.
way, that was so funny. He's like, Kylo's like, what is happening? And she just like walks toward the tie and is like, okay, bye. like he didn't try to stop her or anything. And she's like, I'm taking the tie. See you later. He's like,
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I should be dead anyway, so it's yours.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You basically killed me.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take my stuff.
You beat me. You get this one.
Yeah, I think I experienced it the same way that you did, but I think that's a pretty interesting point because
that was just based on how they cut it. Like it,
Yeah.
And perhaps another way of looking at it would be that as Rey stabbed Kylo, she had that
somehow
connection
failed
and
it. Yeah,
and perhaps that was a sign or a signal that this was her last. The loss of her presence in Rey's mind or in Rey's heart,
or the fact that she might have disappointed her,
was her last effort to turn Rey against the dark side.
Yeah, I like that. So she pieces out.
Yep.
The tie.
Rey goes to Jedi Island. She gets pep talk
Well,
from Luke.
before this happens, Kylo walks out to the end of whatever thing he's on, and you hear a voice that says, "Hey, kid," and you know exactly what's about to happen. And he turns around and it's Han Solo. It's his father, and
Not a Force ghost.
not a Force ghost, just a memory. And they have a conversation that echoes the conversation they had in Force Awakens. where-
Echoes it painfully. Like, this was one part where I didn't really like the writing because it felt really on the nose.
Yeah, it did to me too. The thing that made me sad was that perhaps this was a possible outcome in Force Awakens, that this was the question he was actually asking. He's like, I need your help, I can't do it. And then Snoke's influence over him made him go through with it. But maybe there was a chance in that scene in Force Awakens where he just throws a lightsaber, which is that's tragic, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what happens. They have that conversation. They have some of the same dialogue. Han puts his hand on his face, and he turns around and he throws the lightsaber and decides that he's no longer Kylo Ren.
Right.
And then Rey goes to Jedi Island, and go ahead.
And so she gets her pep talk from Luke, and Luke says, "Now before you go, because you got to go beat Palpatine because you're the last Jedi."
It's the destiny of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Palpatine's a dick.
There's something here for you. And he shows her in his house, and she pulls a brick out, and there's another lightsaber there, and it's Leia's lightsaber.
Yeah, which to me also felt kind of cheap.
A little bit, yeah.
I was like,
Really? I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it felt like, it was like, oh my god, like how many send-offs do you have to give Carrie Fisher? I love her, like I do, like I really love her, but it's like if you go a little bit too overboard, it's like just putting too much icing on something.
It was definitely a little cheesy, but I liked it.
Yeah,
but the context they provided for why that is, I thought was really interesting. The fact that she had this vision, continue the Jedi path, and you're going to lose your family, your son. So
she gave it up.
Chose family.
Yeah.
Even though she was, as that scene indicated, a bit more skilled in combat than Luke Skywalker.
Well, since we're talking about this, they made in Rise of Skywalker, they made Leia a little bit more like extended universe Leia, who had ended up becoming a Jedi, like a full-fledged like Jedi Knight, right? And I remember that one of the reasons that I was so against this idea originally was because I remember an interview with J.J. Abrams who said Leia's connection to the Force is more instinctual. She's untrained. And so, she's a Skywalker, so of course she has the Force, but she doesn't use it the same way a Jedi uses it. So, I had to reconcile this thing where, that was clearly the plan. Leia was not supposed to be a Jedi in this canon, and they retconned it a bit to be like she was actually literally training as a Jedi and then quit.
I don't know that that's a retcon exactly. I can.
We can't use an interview as proof for canon anyway,
but I can absolutely accept that she was in training to be a Jedi and had this vision and decided that it wasn't the path for her and then quit. But she still has some of the lessons she learned, and she just kind of uses that whether she wants to or not. I mean, it's like learning a martial art. It just changes the way you see the world and the way you move.
Like your perception.
I mean, when you're force sensitive, as long as your ears remain, or your mind, your body, your soul remains open to that. Messages come.
Yeah. So the other thing that bothered me about this scene was how it was one scene and it was done, and then she was already on her way back. Yeah. Like she got there, she's like, "Oh, I'm done." Looks like you're not done. She's like, "Okay, I'll go now." And that's pretty much the length of it.
There was one fantastic callback where Rey's like, "Okay, how do I get there?" Luke says, "You have everything you need." She goes digging through the wreckage, finds Kylo Ren's Wayfinder, and then you hear the Yoda theme, and he's pulling his X-wing up out of the water.
Oh my God. Bugged me.
It was on the nose. I liked it.
I did not like it at all. Okay, it was the implications.
So before seeing Last Jedi, like my little nerd boner wanted Luke to join the fight in person, and the way that he was going to do that was he was going to race his X-wing out of the water and get there himself, right?
That's interesting.
And now I see that it would have been a little silly in either, in either, like it would have been kind of cheesy in either story, like in Last Jedi, and it was a little cheesy, I thought, in Rise of Skywalker,
because of the parallels to Yoda.
A little bit, and more, like that whole scene in Empire where he couldn't do it, but now he can do it, and like I didn't have any technical problems with it, because I mean it's a ship that is a spacefaring ship, which means if it can fly in space, it can sit in the water for a few years and it's probably still be okay. But it really, and the way that it shot was a little too much, and then like Luke's smile at the end.
Yeah.
And
I had problems.
Yeah, it just like, yeah, and it's fine. It's fine. I didn't love it. Whatever. But
So Rey takes off out to Sith planet.
Yes, it's a hidden Sith planet.
Sith planet. She's while she's going, she's transmitting her course to the Resistance so that they can bring the fleet and follow them in. The Resistance has this plan where they're going to bring all their ships and all their people, and they're going to go attack the planet. But they're going to send Lando and the Millennium Falcon to
do what they did at the end of Last Jedi. That didn't work. Yes, why would you do it again? That was the whole thing. They're like, we'll call for our friends. They'll come save us. Okay. And no one came.
There's one important difference here, and that is that Palpatine has just said to the entire galaxy, we're going to blow you up unless you surrender right now. So in the face of that existential threat, I can see people who maybe weren't going to...
shit, Palpatine's in this one. We're we got to do something.
Like before, it was, okay, we go help the Resistance. What do we get out of this? Yeah, right. Now, it's if we don't help the Resistance, we are going to die.
Yeah. Also, people could have been busy in Last Jedi.
Well, sorry. Before it was this uneven, this awkward occupation. Now it's like total surrender. The chips are on the table.
So everyone ends up on hidden Sith planets.
Yes. So Rey is on Sith planet. She goes down to see Palpatine. She tells Palpatine, "I'm gonna kill you." Palpatine says, "Good, yes, please kill me, because as soon as you do, my spirit's gonna inhabit your body. You're gonna be like the heir of the Sith, and you're gonna sit on that throne and be the Empress."
Now, right around here, this is where all of the things that you and I had talked about Palpatine's, the fact that Palpatine wouldn't give his empire to someone else. That's where those warning bells were going off, and I was like,
really?
Just because she's his granddaughter, like he's feeling Palpatine's sentimental all of a sudden?
I got the impression that he was going to possess her.
Well, I think that what happened is exactly what he had planned on happening.
Oh, just draw her life.
He gets Rey there, he gets Kylo there, and because they're a Force dyad, which is a thing we've never heard about before. I don't understand why this is a thing that was introduced at all. whatever.
So the only defense of that I have is that every single Star Wars movie has introduced more components of the Force.
Yeah.
And that it's made the Force bigger. So I'm okay with it.
I would agree, and I thought the way they were able to use, that tool between Rey and Kylo Ben.
I thought it was midichlorians all over again. I really did.
Yeah.
I thought it's like when the Force as a mystical, unnamed thing that a lot of people don't understand, that the audience doesn't understand that well, is a really cool thing. And then when you start trying to explain the little nooks and crannies of it, and Force dyads and midichlorians and stuff, it just kind of ruins it for me.
Remember when George Lucas was going to make the sequels about midichlorians?
Oh my god.
Well, sure, but at the same time, if a Force ghost is going to be able to, raise or physically interact with the world, which is what we saw for the first time too in this movie, right?
Yeah.
Luke catching the lightsaber,
special, yeah.
Raising the X-wing, those were all new as well.
Yeah.
And those have major implications for the universe.
Yeah, that's true, and that's something that we theorized, because the fact that Yoda brought lightning down on the tree was a big thing, because
that's
he didn't only do that, he smacked Luke in the face with his cane.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And so I assumed, Luke will just come back and be able to fight, even though he's a Force ghost.
Yeah.
So
while this is happening, there's the Resistance fighting the First Order in orbit. They need to take out this fleet, otherwise
they have to destroy the thing.
Yeah,
yes.
which if I could interject, that was total bullshit in my mind. The Star Wars movies as story, as narrative, they're not very good. But they're entertaining.
They sure do
movies.
love their planet-killing machines.
Well, right, yeah, exactly.
Which is something that comes
now they
back
have a
here.
backpack
Yeah,
version.
What I really love is that it used to take this moon-sized battle station to make a laser that could destroy a planet, and now you can just put it on any old Star Destroyer.
Miniaturization, man.
Technology goes a long way in
Yeah.
a very short time.
Yeah, and that's kind of the stakes, is that they have a billion of these Star Destroyers, each of them having a gun that can destroy an entire planet. But by the way, we found out who the mole is. We should talk about that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's
Hux.
And he has the most unceremonious death I've ever seen, and I loved it. I really did.
Christopher Walken just grabs a blaster from another stormtrooper, shoots him in the chest.
That wasn't Christopher Walken.
Yeah, it was.
Was it really?
That was not Christopher Walken.
I'm pretty sure it was Christopher Walken. If it wasn't, it was someone who looked a lot like him.
It was not Christopher
All right,
Walken.
I'm looking up IMDb right now.
Because I hear that man's voice.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Also, he's very old now. Also, I know
His
the guy's
hair wasn't
name.
right.
Yeah, I know the guy's. Yeah, it's like that.
Oh, dang it.
From Sleepy Hollow. That crazy yeah.
While you're looking that up,
while you're looking it up.
the fact that they had as much information on this unknown hidden planet and that they could form some kind of strange, albeit desperate, battle strategy. They knew what devices they would be using to communicate in approximately where they would be. They knew the entire process, which I guess you could get, being that Finn has been a part of the Empire and the other characters as well, but still to be able to have a strategy meeting on your hidden tree planet before you go invade the home of the Sith, which nobody's ever been able to find ever.
Yeah.
It's just complete ridiculous.
Okay, I was wrong. It was Richard E. Grant was General Pride.
Yeah, I remember. Now that you mention it, he kind of does look like Christopher Walken.
He looks a lot like Christopher Walken.
You know who I thought he reminded me of was Werner Herzog.
A little bit, yeah.
And I was like, that's not. Oh no, he's way older than that. No. Also, they wouldn't put him in The Mandalorian and this movie. Which, by the way, Hux's motivation was that he didn't want to help the rebellion, but he didn't want Kylo to win.
Right.
He wanted to be in control, which is perfectly in line with his character.
It's a very Hux motivation.
Yeah, and they end up rescuing Chewie off a thing. Mm-hmm. It turns out he wasn't really dead, and they're about to be executed, and Hux comes in the last minute and saves them, and he's like, shoot me in the leg.
He says shoot me in the arm, and then Finn shoots him in the leg.
Yeah, to make it look legit. And so he's got his cane. He goes before the whatever general and was like,
Pride.
"It's awful. They shot me." And he like looks at him. He's like, "Really?" And then he just shoots him right in the chest. And it's like, that's the death that Hux deserves.
Yeah.
Like it really is.
It's like interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty neat. Anyway, the entirety of this plan is that they're going to have a ground strike force to take out the thing that's allowing all the Death Star destroyers to come out of. And if they don't have this thing, they'll get lost and crash or something.
So the reason they needed to follow Rey's course was because this planet has like this
Gravity wells. Yeah.
Gravity wells and magnetic
and doodads and
shit.
And diodes.
So they need to follow this path very precisely. And the Death Star destroyers need to follow this path to get out, which they're getting from this navigation tower on the ground. So the plan is to destroy the navigation tower, but the First Order, the final order, I guess they are now, sees that and says, "Hey, they're going to blow up our navigation tower. Fuck that. We can like give navigation from our command ship. Let's just do that."
Yep.
Meanwhile, and Finn, by the way, is absolutely 100% confirmed Force sensitive because of this movie.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like there are a bunch of moments that he senses Rey is going dark, and like he senses that they need to do things. Like,
Yep.
he has no way of knowing this. It's 100% the Force.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Finn, I'm just going to say this out loud right now, and if you're not the kind of person that looks for these things in their movies, then that's fine. I wanted a Finn and Poe romance. I wanted it so bad because both of those actors are great. They're amazing actors. They have strong chemistry together. It would not surprise me at all to find out they are very good friends in real life. Either that or they're just amazing actors. And it seemed like they were fueling that fire the entire time.
I agree. Yeah.
They were fighting like an old couple. They fight like John and I fight sometimes. And like they have these like... There's a way they talk to each other that's so intimate and personal. And I really thought they were going to do it. They didn't. I'm over it. But I'm just saying I really wish that they would have. So
that would have required more courage than Disney has, I think.
That's true.
So that's the scene where, by the way, in the trailers where they're like riding these animals on top of the Star Destroyer. That they find out that their landing force lands on top of the Star Destroyer, and they go and take out the navigation tower.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the rebellion's getting their ass kicked.
Resistance.
Yeah. Same thing. They're all dying. Snap Wexley dies, which like if you follow the new expanded universe, kind of like got me right through the chest because I really liked him as a character in the books. And then, what do you know? Lando Calrissian, that motherfucker, brings the largest fleet I've ever seen in Star Wars. Apparently, like everybody brings their own personal ship or whatever battle cruiser they had in their backyard or something.
They're fighters, they're freighters, they're everything.
I thought that was cool.
And it's a perfect hodgepodge fleet being led by the most hodgepodge ship in the world, which is the Millennium
It's like
Falcon.
everybody in the neighborhood just piled into their respective cars and jumped.
Right. There's a great cameo from
Wedge
Antilles. Yep. Which there were rumors about his actor being on set and stuff, so that didn't surprise me, but I liked it. It's like, some more fan service. My stomach hurts a little bit, but I like it.
Yeah.
So
while this is going on, Kylo Ren or Ben Skywalker, which he is now.
Yeah.
Ben
Solo.
Solo. He arrives on Secret Sith World. He apparently jacked a First Order TIE fighter somewhere.
No lightsaber.
Yeah, no lightsaber because he threw it away. He sneaks in. He shoots a couple guards on his way in. It's very clever. He gets confronted by the Knights of Ren.
Who are like, we didn't even like you anyway, fucker.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So they just kind of surround him and they start beating the crap out of him. Rey is in like this ceremonial throne room where she's like, where Palpatine's like, yes, kill me and then become the Empress.
Something.
Yeah, and she like pretends to give into it, and he says, now raise the lightsaber and erase the Jedi, and she kind of places it behind her head, and Kylo just kind of Ben reaches behind his head. Right. And she passes the lightsaber to him because they can do that.
Yeah, yeah. Which it was clever.
Yes,
and it was kind of neat to see. to see Ben Solo with a blue lightsaber and everything.
It was really cool to see a cooperative use of that power that they had always used so confrontationally.
Also, like, you know that, like, his first thought was like, that's all I had to do to get this fucking lightsaber.
Just had to reach behind my head. Yeah.
I would have been a good guy a long time ago because I just wanted the lightsaber. And so he almost immediately kills all the lightsabers.
He beats the shit out of him. Ray
so
pulls
lackluster.
out.
Like, it's like these guys have had like shots and scenes the whole movie, and everybody's hyping them up, and it's like, these guys died in less than 30 seconds.
It's almost as bad. It's almost as bad as Palpatine murdering the Jedi in Revenge of the Sith when they come to us.
Exactly.
So yeah, they're all dead. He's racing on his way.
Ray pulls out Leia's lightsaber, and she's about to try to find something to do about Palpatine.
Yeah, who, by the way, can now shoot lightning into the sky and destroy.
Well, not yet. He can't.
Right, but before we get to that point, I really liked the way that he narrated her actions.
Yes.
Because he didn't just say, now you will do that. He says, now she will do. He was performing for the audience of Sith, which I thought was fantastic.
Who were they, though? Because there were people there.
I thought they were all the old Sith lords in spirit, essentially.
I thought they were like cultists and slaves.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of figured that's probably what it was. They're like loyalists, or whatever. Yeah.
Really? You think so? His whole monologue.
I mean, they die at the
he
end.
was
Like
the
shit falls
collection
on him.
of the Sith.
Yeah.
Like I am the Sith.
Well, I interpreted that.
me.
Yeah, I had interpreted that as he had all of them inside of him, or whatever.
Yes.
Well, right, just like she had all of them inside of her, but
it seemed that
she still gets voices.
Yeah, it seemed like they
ether.
were literally like sustaining him, though. That's what I kind of interpreted that as that's how he was alive. And which, by the way, that's the one thing we can say we were right about. Palpatine died in Return of the Jedi because at the beginning of the film he says, "I've died before."
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, which actually kind of mirrors the. Dark Empire. There's a line in the Dark Empire comics where he says, "I've died many times, and I'll die many more times after this," which was kind of a neat little callback.
His old mentor.
Yeah. So
Rey uses Leia's lightsaber to beat the crap out of Palpatine's guards. Finally, it's just her and him, and Ben shows up, and then Palpatine's like, "Huh, you two are a Force dyad, aren't you?"
A Force dyad? How did you get
How
here?
convenient!
Yeah.
Let me just steal all your Force energy and regenerate.
Yeah, he gets recharged, which is, and he reverts more or less to how we knew him in Revenge of the Sith right after Mace Windu attacked him.
It looked more like Return of the Jedi, but I guess they're basically about the same.
Yeah.
So his very first action upon being recharged is to force push Ben off a cliff.
Yeah.
Which is the least genre-savvy move he could have possibly made, because nobody ever dies when you knock him into a bottomless pit.
You know what's really funny, though, is he's like, I've been thrown into an abyss before, and I'm not letting it happen this time, so fuck off. And then he's like, I throw you into the abyss. Yeah, I was like, they wouldn't kill Ben Solo like that.
Yeah. So then he sits down on his throne, opens the skylight, and shoots his force lightning into the sky, and it like disables all the resistance ships.
Yeah, it shocks all their systems.
Yeah.
While it was visually stunning, and it was cool to see a Sith Lord with this like awesome world-sized power.
Right.
I think it's the first time we've like seen a force storm.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm almost certain that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I would buy that. So
that makes sense.
The Resistance is real confused about what's happening now, and then what pretty much ends up happening is that he. Was this before or after she gets visited by the?
This is before, because right after that, like all the past Jedi start talking to Rey and say, "Hey, you need to get up and kick his ass.
Get up, get up, get up.
Rise, 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 rise."
Yes, which we heard Ewan McGregor in there as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
There was Liam Neeson.
Yeah, Liam Neeson, Yoda, Luke, of course, Luke and Leia. I think Mace Windu was in there.
Maybe.
I can't remember. There were a couple of voices I just plain didn't recognize.
There were a lot that I didn't recognize.
Yeah, and maybe that was by design. They're just Jedi we didn't know about, So she like gets up and is like, "All right, I've had my pep talk again. Let's go."
All right, it's time to die, bitch.
Yeah.
So Palpatine starts shooting lightning at her. She blocks it with Leia's lightsaber.
Right now, right at this point, I don't know. Palpatine's like, I've seen this before. She's blocking my lightning. Maybe I should stop and find a different way.
You would think.
She didn't have a purple lightsaber.
That's true.
So he says, I have in me all the Sith, and she says, I have in me all the Jedi, and she force grabs.
She's like, wait, like literally in you, or figuratively?
Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
So she grabs.
Great scene.
Yeah, she grabs Anakin's lightsaber. She's blocking the lightning, reflecting it back. Palpatine, like, at this point, you would think, hey, Palpatine, maybe just turn off the Force lightning that's, cooking you alive.
You've seen this before. This has happened before. This is how you lost, like, your face. Maybe he was like, well, Mace Windu, like, he melted my face, but all the particles didn't fly off my being.
Yeah.
Which is what ended up happening.
Yeah.
He just like...
Maybe he liked that look.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like...
But anyway, the Force lightning gets reflected on him. He just kind of disintegrates and goes away.
Yeah.
You know what I liked building up to that scene, in this very small part? I liked the sound effect that was made when he made the Force Storm.
Yeah,
That
actually, I know what you mean because I remember...
It was
yeah.
just power.
It was. There was
That
something
sounded
very
like.
unique about the sound design of that entire planet.
Absolutely.
When it was.
With the lightning.
Yeah,
and the sounds.
I agree. I think that's like I said. All the faults that I can find with the movie, none of them will be about the actual filmmaking of it, like the sound design and the score and everything. It was all very, very good. So Palpatine's dead.
The Force Storm is
so
gone.
we
Resistance can fly around and shoot up Death Star destroyers again, and they blow them all up, and they're winning, and it's all happy.
And then the galaxy starts doing the same thing because they've been watching the live stream the whole time.
Yeah. We get shots of like Cloud City, Endor,
just like the
Jakku.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to see some Ewoks.
Well, you know what? Actually, I knew we would see an Ewok somewhere because as a part of one of their sizzle reels, they showed Warwick Davis in a Ewok costume.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So I was like, all right, well, Ewoks are going to be somewhere in this bitch, so keep an eye out.
I grew up with the Ewok movies, and so that touched a really special place.
Yeah, it was cool to see him. So the galaxy wins, the good guys win.
But wait! There's still a problem because Finn is on the Millennium Falcon at this point, I think, and he senses that something's going wrong with Rey. So we cut back to Rey. She drops the lightsabers and just kind of falls over. Presumably
like,
dead.
eyes still open, like that kind of dead.
Yeah, she just drops dead because she's all out of juice.
Right. This whole thing is predicated on how much juice a Jedi has.
Well, I mean, it's the ultimate epitome with the dark side versus the light side.
Mm-hmm.
People are gonna run out of juice.
Yeah.
And then we get this shot of like this hand grabbing a cliff, and it's Ben Skywalker who has climbed his way all the way back up.
Which at this point in the movie, I was like, of course it is.
Yeah, and he limps all the way over to Rey. He's like, "Ah, shit, she's dead."
Yeah.
So she kind of grabs her.
No, we haven't even banged yet.
For a second, I thought he was going to do creepy things to her corpse.
Oh, that's dirty.
Man, well, you've got a really
I was really
perspective on
worried.
her-
To
on him.
be fair,
goodness.
Kylo's kind of weird. So
He's weird because he's a
not
broken
Kylo,
person.
Yeah, the point is he's not Kylo anymore. He's Ben Solo, so he didn't do those things.
So instead, he grabs her body, he closes his eyes, and he concentrates. And like after 5 seconds of like intense breathing, she wakes up.
Yeah, and which, by the way, you could tell just by the way that he was acting that this wasn't Snoke Force that he was channeling.
Nope.
This was like Luke Skywalker Jedi Force because he sat a different way and he like calmed himself, and it wasn't about his rage or anything. And he calmed himself down, and that's how he did it. In which that detail is like,
That was great.
Yeah, cool.
Absolutely.
I remember you talking about this movie and how you didn't think Ben Solo could be redeemed. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they should have.
Okay.
I think he should have died a bad guy.
I think of all the ways they could have done it, they picked just about the best.
Really? Because I hated it. It was like Rey was dead. And he's like, okay, focus. Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah.
And this is after. It's just there were so many like when this was happening in the movie, I was like, why are they dying? But I don't understand. Why are they dying?
I didn't get why she died.
She
either.
said I put a little bit of my force,
I
my life energy into this person through the force.
It's just everyone's dying and then not dying anymore. It just it was a weird. It was I don't know. I didn't love
my
it.
only issue with the whole situation was that it was never really well explained why Rey was dying. Like she just kind of fell over, and like there wasn't any sign of like great strain on her part. There wasn't any like tremors or like it. Obviously, what she was doing was spectacular, but it didn't strike me in the moment as the sort of thing that like drains all of your life energy.
I didn't have a problem with that.
I didn't think it didn't look to me like she was using the Force at all. I thought she was just using her lightsaber.
Of course she was using the Force. She was blocking shit tons of Force lightning from the strongest Sith that ever lived.
I just thought that maybe lightsabers are pretty good at absorbing it. Like it makes sense,
maybe.
you know. I don't know. It's so yeah.
But like
Rey dies.
For me, that was everyone, every Jedi just channeling their power through her. She was a vehicle, and after that was done, vehicle's burnt out, man.
Okay, yeah.
They drove it right into the ground.
Yeah.
So she just died with her eyes open. And then I thought Ben Solo's selfless act was an excellent climax to his story.
Yeah.
It's like he finally embraced the ideals that Luke Skywalker tried to impart upon him.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Yeah.
So Rey's back. They're kind of embracing. They have a kiss. I kind of hated that. It's like, eh.
That would have made me appreciate the scene in a different way. Is Rey doesn't need a romantic interest in this story to be interesting.
But the only thing about that I really genuinely liked was that after the kiss, you see a very genuine smile from Ben Solo.
Yeah, and that really is a testament of Adam Driver being an amazing actor.
Yeah. Like, I don't think we see Kylo Ren smile at all.
Well, no. Well, he's super emo the entire time.
He can't smile until he completes himself.
Yeah.
And,
so then
and he was
finally,
broken right up until that
moment. And finally getting that at the end is it's a nice end to his character arc, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was a great capstone.
Like, if you're going to redeem him, I think showing that through that, like, this very simple human facial expression.
Yeah.
It's about the best way
I
to
dig
do
it.
it.
Yeah. It's worth mentioning that at this point, Leia has died, but her body is still present. Mm-hmm. She's still cold, like on a table with a blanket over her. And then Ben disappears.
That I had issues with.
I had issues with the fact that Leia did too. Because Ben disappears and then Leia disappears. And we were led to believe that the Force works in a way such that you must have a special kind of training to grab on your consciousness after death. And I could maybe buy Luke sharing it with her at some point in his older age, or maybe between movies, like he visits her. Mm-hmm. I cannot understand how Ben Solo would have been even mature enough, even if he was a good guy, to be taught a power like that.
Yeah, my issue is that, like, okay, he's redeemed. He's no longer this evil Kylo Ren. Mm-hmm. I don't think one selfless act at the very end of your life where you've done a lot of inflicted a lot of suffering.
Killed your own father. Like,
I have to contradict this because it's what they did with Anakin Skywalker. Because, like, he at the very end he dies, and then we see his ghost at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Well, see, that's different for me because I don't know. It just felt different for me when it happened with Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi, because he had been like it's true that he'd been through this entire career of being a bad guy, but like maybe it's because of the way the dialogue is written in that movie, where like Luke is trying to tell him like it's in there, like and he keeps fighting and he's like, it's sorry, it's not in there, and like at the end he's finally like, and it took a very visceral moment for him. It took his son being tortured in front of him for him to be like,
wait a minute,
yeah,
this
what
is
the
bullshit.
Fuck am I doing here? Yeah, and it's like during our recaps, I wrote this section of that, kind of how I interpreted it, which was Palpatine had manipulated him to kill his wife, pretty much, and he's standing there. He's like, he's going to do the same thing with my son if I don't do something. And then that's what caused him to do it. Now, whether or not that should have made him a Force ghost, like if it would have gotten him passage in the Force Ghost Club, and then immediately revert back to his like 28-year-old sexy as fuck self.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I thought, you mentioned you didn't like, his reviving Rey, right? You didn't really like that.
I was confused about the pace of it. Was weird because like she was dead and then he was dead, and it's just very
that did happen very quickly. You're right. You're right about that. Absolutely. But I loved it from the symbolism of it. and that ties directly back to Anakin overpowering the Emperor and throwing him off, in Return of the Jedi. And
I do appreciate that Kylo was the one to beat the Emperor. Mm-hmm. Like mirroring a Vader thing where he saves Rey.
Yeah,
ultimately, right? Well, yeah, and was his one act of redemption redeeming enough?
Yeah, and
I think absolutely, because you look at Vader's history, you look at all the terrible things he did. And you're right. It took him looking at his son being tortured to death to flip that switch back on.
Yeah.
In Ben Solo's case, it took seeing the single person. Well, the single person that was still alive.
Yeah, because everyone was pretty dead.
Who believed in him. The singular person throughout all of his relationships, that the person that he could do something about. The situation that he could actually impact.
I like that.
And more than that, she was, kind of the representation of hope for, the
like his
rebels.
Goodness. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So,
yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
That was it. It was her.
Yeah.
So I absolutely think that one act was redeeming enough in his case.
Okay. I do appreciate that there was like some quid pro quo. if I might use a word in the zeitgeist currently,
absolutely.
Where she saved his life, and so he's like,
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Right.
We're even now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Palpatine is dead. Kylo is dead.
Ben is also
Ben is also dead. Leia is dead. The Resistance has won, and they're all celebrating at the end.
There's lots of hugs. There's a girl-on-girl kiss.
Yep.
Because that's the safe kind for media.
Yeah, that's a safe gay for a mainstream movie.
Yeah.
And then
Finn, Poe, and Rey have a very nice three-way hug.
Maybe that's like a throuple. Like maybe that's what they're going to do. Yeah,
I think so. Absolutely.
I really thought they were building towards a Finn Rey relationship.
Really?
There was a lot of moments.
I thought the way that I thought he was going to tell her that he loved Poe.
Really?
Like that was the thing he had to tell her.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Which did we ever find out what he like right as a beginning?
I'm pretty sure he was trying to tell her that he was Force sensitive, or like he was trying to have a conversation about that.
That would have been a brilliant conversation for this movie. It would have been a brilliant plot point.
I'm pretty sure when the Blu-ray comes out, it'll be in the deleted scenes.
Yeah. It's like that should. I think that as a main part of the story would have been more interesting to pursue than other things that were pursued.
Perhaps there will also be a scene that was deleted that explains, the significance behind Leia's body remaining there until
maybe she couldn't go until she had her son.
Right. Some kind of resolution or something. Yeah. It's hard to say.
Yeah. There's also an incredibly fan servicey shot where Maz Kanata hands Chewbacca this medal that's just like the ones that Han and Luke, but not Chewie, got at the end of A New Hope.
Yeah. I thought that was great. You didn't like it.
I rolled my eyes. I mean, it was really, and if you liked it, that's awesome. Like I'm glad that moment resonated with you, and it's awesome that you love it. But for me, like I was just kind of like my stomach hurts from all this fan. Like it's like I've eaten a shit ton of Halloween candy, and I'm just feeling a little ill.
All right.
Well, I think Star Wars in and of itself is fan service.
Oh, that's a fair point. And also, like you have to strip away your expectation and examine what Star Wars is. Yeah. And it's a movie for kids.
Right. Exactly.
And we grew up. That does not necessarily mean that we need all the main Star Wars movies to be rated R, like super.
Sure.
That's not what Star Wars needs to be. So let's sum up our thoughts.
Last sequence. Okay. So Rey goes back to Tatooine. Yeah. She goes back to the Owen family, Lars farm, the moisture farm in the middle of the desert that's completely abandoned. She takes Luke and Leia's lightsaber, Anakin and Leia's lightsabers. She wraps them up and buries them in the sand. She pulls out her own lightsaber, which has a yellow blade.
It looks janky as fuck.
Yeah, like she had very clearly just made it out of
She should have read the book on building lightsabers. Yeah. I think.
What are you talking? It's got a rheostat. That's awesome.
What now?
It's got a rheostat.
It's like when she turns it on, she rotates something instead of pushing a button.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It should be a button, not a whatever the fuck he just said.
So then this old lady comes by and she says, "Hi, there hasn't been anyone around here for years."
Who is she, by the way? There's not a house anywhere in that area.
She had a camel or something.
Like,
the
is she like
milk
the
lady.
homeless lady that lived at the Lars homestead?
It's the milk lady.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
wanted to
What?
check it.
There's no one to deliver milk to.
The Schwann's man's coming.
So she comes by and says, "Hey, who the hell are you?" And she says, Ray answers, "I'm Ray." And she's, "Ray who?" and Ray just kind of looks over to the side, sees Force ghosts of Luke and Leia, turns back, Ray Skywalker.
Yeah.
Roll credits.
Which, I mean, you can be whoever you want to be, so that's fine.
I
Yeah.
guess.
It was our theory.
I really wanted her to say just Ray.
Yeah.
I think that.
Oh,
but
I think I would have liked that more.
I think that tells a better story because it means anyone can be a hero, which
Yeah.
is something Star Wars desperately needs.
Yeah, I think that that's the ending we could have had, and I have no proof of this, but I really feel like the entire way that this film was written was a placation, and you wanted fan service.
Here you go.
Here's way too much of it. Like you wanted kind of a fan fiction-y story. Here it is. And I could be wrong. I don't know what to say about it because I don't want to insult the work of J.J. Abrams, who is a filmmaker I really respect and I love all of his work. And I like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it certainly is not on my list of top 5 Star Wars movies.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I don't think it's even in the top 7.
I don't know, So, okay, here's a question. Pick your least favorite prequel movie. Is this worse than that?
Okay, so my least favorite prequel movie would have to be Attack of the Clones. And when that movie came out, I loved it. I really did. As I grew up a little bit, I kind of I learned that it was kind of ridiculous in spots. And then Dan and I saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters opening night, by the way, which is 10 centuries ago, it feels. And we were so crazy about that movie. Yeah. And it's probably the one prequel movie where I can watch now and not be like, oh my fucking god.
Yeah.
But you know what we liked about that movie? The fan service.
That's true. Well, I really love Mace. Mace Windu is a badass in that movie.
That was Mace Windu. Dude, dude's a badass. We got to see Yoda versus Palpatine.
Yeah, right.
Throwing the Senate around.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
I'm just gonna throw the entire Senate at you. Fuck you.
I throw myself.
That was awesome.
I am the yeah.
That was the force sensitive battles that we've dreamed about in our heads, and we got to see that.
Yeah, it's all in all, it's you will never hear me denying that it is a Star Wars movie, and you will never hear me say something like "not my Star Wars" or something like that because it's so fucking stupid. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. It exists. I accept it. It's not my favorite, but it doesn't matter that it's my favorite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. Well, yeah.
So whatever.
It's good to have an opinion.
So,
but, yeah.
What is your answer to that question?
My least favorite prequel is Phantom Menace, and I right now I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
This
I don't
might
really
be
know
my least favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
So when was the Gungan battle? Was that
It's Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace?
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Which
my
is-
least favorite movie was The Attack of the Clones. Because I haven't.
Wow, that went in a different direction I thought it was about to go.
Yeah, I love the Gungan battle.
Oh, really?
I'm on the Darth Jar Jar ship.
I've
I've
never understood why people hated Jar Jar being so much. He was kind of annoying, but I mean, yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah, he was annoying at that time.
Yeah.
Because really serious Star Wars movie with.
Ironically, the thing that I hated about Phantom Menace was the pod race because it was so fucking long.
That was
it's like a
drawn
third
out.
of the movie.
It
It's
was
just we're
drawn out.
still racing pod racers.
It was the Canto Bight before Canto
Yeah,
Bight.
right. Yeah. Oh, I remember when that movie first came out on VHS and I got it and I got to watch it for the first time after it came out.
Sped right past the pod race.
No, I fell asleep during it. I remember because I was so excited to see that fucking lightsaber battle at the end.
Yeah.
Because it was I could not believe how amazing that lightsaber battle was.
really good.
And then I remember waking up and the credits were rolling and we were like, oh no.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. So anyway, we better wrap this up. We've been going
Yeah.
for much longer than we
Yes.
kind of planned to be.
Over
So,
an hour.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. If you're, which is fine. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. Let us know what you thought about the film. We're happy to talk to you. Your arguments and your opinions need to be respectful. Otherwise, I'll zap them out of existence. Otherwise, if you agree with us or don't agree with us, we're happy to engage with you. Join us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram so you can see our prequel memes. And our podcasts on, I always forget this, Apple Podcasts.
Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud.
Yeah, I need like a card.
Yeah.
So I can remember. Anyway, thanks for joining us, guys. You are the reason we do this, just to talk about Star Wars to people we like and other Star Wars fans. So we will see you on the next one.